Welcome everyone to Beat the Game, and it's time to talk about Spectrum, understanding the mechanics. Let's just do a little quick review of her hero kit, and then we'll also talk about some of the deck building options for her. So we're going to try to complete this all in one. I'll give you some deck ideas as well at the end of the video where you can try her out, and which I have tried her out in multiple different aspects, and she is very, very versatile and extremely fun to play. One of by far one of my new favorite characters. Not Ms. Marvel level, but very close there to my top tier of my favorite heroes. All right, so this Monica Rambo. Okay, so we look at Monica Rambo. Recovery of 3, hand size of 6, hit points of 11. She is a civilian. So far we don't have too many civilians. There's just a few in the that have that trait. In Alter Ego, which is pretty cool. There is a setup ability which says put 3 energy forms upgrades face down. So that is what you do when you do the setup. And then power down, force response after you change to this form, turn all energy forms upgrades face down. Now this is more of it's a whatever rule. You don't really need to flip your cards back and forth if you don't want to. But when you do decide to switch, I think it's a lot less awkward and it's a lot easier to just kind of filter through them by stacking them one on top of the next and just choosing the form that you actually want. So one thing that people were asking and not sure about it is when you do flip to hero form, energy transformation, it is a force response. All right, so after you change to this form, choose a face down energy form upgrade, flip that card face up to change to that energy form. So you do get to choose. It's not random. All right, so this is what I mean. So you get to choose the one that you actually want to be in. So you just flip through them and you just put the one you want. All right, let's take a look at Spectrum first. All right, so Spectrum is a 1/1/1, 1 thwart, 1 attack, 1 defense, aerial Avenger. Now, which is amazing is she is an Avenger, but she is also aerial straight up the pipe. So not unlike Thor that needs his hammer, unlike Captain Marvel that needs I forget the upgrade there, the preventing thing, and like all the other characters that need an upgrade, she starts with aerial straight off the bat. So that is super, super cool, and that makes for some interesting combinations with those really nice aerial cards that we did get from the previous sets of Star-Lord. All right, so 1/1/1. It's not that amazing for stats. We were like looking at that, we're like, man, that's Miss Marvel. Like, that's garbage. But she does have this really cool. So let's look at our 3 forms. So let's look at our thwart form, which is what I call it. I just call it thwart form, which is called Photon. There you go. So Photon. Yeah, I'm gonna get rid of my my shiny foils here. Yeah. Just so it's just easier because the camera is really close, so it does shine a little bit more than it normally does. All right, make it shine if you live in Canada and maybe in the US. I'm trying to work out a deal there with some big players, so maybe we'll be able to get these guys in the US soon. All right, so Photon. Energy form, permanent. Spectrum gets +2 thwart, so then she starts off with 3 thwart. That is pretty amazing. So that's super solid. Like a thwart of 3 off the bat, that is right there in the highest forms straight off there. And then when you get to and you add, what's the other one there? The heroic intuition, you can get up to a thwart of 4. That is super solid. All right, so look. And then hero response, after you change to this energy form, remove 1 threat from a scheme. So that is very, very cool. Now, I'll tell you about my mistake that I made when I was playing the game. My first time when I was playing, a couple things I didn't get it. So you get to choose the energy form when you flip from alter ego to hero. What you don't get to do is choose when you are in hero form. You don't get to choose as your 1 action per turn to switch energy forms. No. That only happens through certain mechanics that we'll explain in a little minute. So that was one of the big mistakes that I made. Also, changing energy forms is not like changing hero forms. So when I played my first game against Taskmaster, I was dealing myself a lot of extra damage for no reason. So that in itself where it comes into play. Now, cards like Surprise Attack and Lay Down the Law do function because the way they are written, it says when you change form and not hero form. It just says when you change form. So those cards with Spectrum, when she changes to the different forms, have a timing trigger that you can resolve and give their and do those effects with the with those cards. So that's super important to know because there's a few that are very, very good when you change forms. Well, she comes with the Moxie, but Perseverance, that gives you the tough status card, Lay Down the Law, and Surprise Attack. So all of them are super good with her. So very, very cool. Whatever aspect you're playing, definitely think about putting those cards in. All right, so that is her thwart form. So she removes a threat straight off from flipping, and then she gets a 3-threat base. Now, after that, if ever you choose to go to Gamma form, okay, so Photon form, Gamma, where is the attack form? It says energy form permanent Gamma. It is an upgrade that stays into play. It cannot be discarded. Spectrum gets +2 attack. So then again, she's now a 3 attack. Super solid once again. Hero response, after you change to this form, deal a damage to an enemy. Now, what is amazing about that is you never have to worry about tough ever again. Because tough enemies, boof, they're going to go away as soon as you change to that energy form. So that is very, very practical, especially with a lot of the minions that have guards and toughness, or villains that start on play with tough. Now that is just an easy ping for those characters. That is just phenomenal. And then finally, her Pulsar form, which is energy form permanent. Again, it starts into play. Spectrum gets +2 defense. And then hero response, after you change to this energy form, heal a damage from Spectrum. So she's got ways to recover in hero form. Like, that is super solid. Being able to recover in hero form is huge. That means you don't really need to go down to alter ego. Now, the other thing with this character, going down to alter ego does nothing. So this is one of those characters where I'm like, you don't really want, aside from getting that +1 hand size, there is no added benefits from flipping down. So one of the things you might want to think about is just stay in hero form as much as possible, and flipping through those forms, which we're going to see with her hero kit, is very, very simple. Is you might be able to find some really, really fun interactions to do with that. All right, so let's keep a look. So we see all of our upgrades here. Let's take a look at some of the permanents. Now, this is a very event-focused character. So one of the things I always suggest when you have an event-focused character like Hulk or like, Ms. Marvel or something like that is... Actually, not Ms. Marvel, because Ms. Marvel really thrives off of the different types of events. Spectrum, if you play too many events, you're going to lose the real core mechanics of her deck, which is flipping through the energy forms for what you need. So again, I'm going to talk about what she does, but we're going to talk about that in a minute. But let's talk about Energy Duplication. Is a 2-cost upgrade. There's 2 copies of this in the deck. All right, so these are very key cards because these are resource cards. All right, so these are must play, should play, priority number 1 cards to play. Energy Duplication. There's 2 copies. You get them, play them. It's worth it. Now, why is it worth it? All right, so Energy Duplication's 2-cost upgrade. Superpower. Again, superpower. Very cool. Hero Resource. So you can only use this if you are in hero... Sorry, stupid hiccups. Oh, you can only use these if you are in hero form. But what it does say is exhaust Hero Duplication and generate the printed resource on your face-up energy form upgrade. So you see, so Pulsar has the lightning, Gamma has the fist, and Photon has the mental. So again, this is very cool because if you're in protection, you want to be generating, if you're playing sidestep and things like that, you want to generate that lightning resource So you can use that. You want to, in Gamma, you want to play an aggression, and then you want to do, let's say, those that 3 cost card there that stuns their drop kick. Well, there you go. Now you actually have a physical here as well for your Gamma. And then when you want to play cards like Lay Down the Law, and then you have the mental, then you can, you can trigger cards like Multitasking and Lay Down the Law for their better effects, because she generates the resource in the form that you're in. So that is super solid. Definitely priority number 1 card. And there's 2 copies of that. And that is the only 2 permanent cards from her hero kit and that's it. There's only 2 cards that are going to stay on the table the entire game. So that is not a lot. Hulk has 2 cards like that. And everyone's like, oh, Hulk is bad. Yeah, because Hulk has, there's only 2 cards and everything else is events. So again, actually has 3, but 1 goes away when you flip down, so I don't really count that as a permanent. All right, so energy duplication, definitely a solid card. All right, let's look at the other semi-permanent card that she has in her kit, which is her ally, Blue Marvel. So Blue Marvel is a 3-cost ally, 2 thwart, 2 attack, 3 aerial avenger. So that's always super good, because then you can combo off with the aerial with the leadership. And then she's an avenger too, so that makes it very easy for a lot of the leadership builds, or even the aggression builds that you want to focus on allies that are avengers. Well, there you go. You have a money ally here that triggers with those. All right. So again, cards like Team Building Exercise and Avengers Tower reduce his costs, which is just money. So 2 thwart, 2 attack, aerial avenger, 3 hit point, hero response. So again, if you play him and you're in alter ego, that's not going to happen. But hero response. After Blue Marvel enters play, change energy forms. So he gives you a free change, which is always appreciated. And plus, he can thwart for 6 or deal 6 damage before he has to go away. Again, super solid ally. Definitely want to cycle through him. You want to use him 1 or 2 times, and then use him as a blocker for sure, because you want to cycle him into your deck as quickly as possible. All right, so Blue Marvel, very good ally. Not a priority ally, but definitely a very good ally to play. All right, now let's look at some of her signature cards here. All right, let's start with the Speed of Light. All right, so she has 3 copies of each of these of each of these cards. All right, so all of her event comes in 3 copies. So that is 12 cards that are specific. Let's gonna make this video a lot shorter too. So Speed of Light is a 0-cost event. Superpower, so again, another superpower card. Hero action, change energy forms, and draw a card. So again, you cannot decide to change forms like you would to like Ant-Man go to small or large. But you need cards like this to change forms. That is super, super important. All right, so don't make the same mistake I did. Don't start switching forms. This is the only way to switch forms with Spectra. So Speed of Light, hero action, change energy forms, and draw a card. So that is a replacement effect, and it gives you a bonus. Either you're going to heal 1, deal a damage, or remove a threat, and get a bonus to one of your stats. There's 3 copies of this. These are amazing cards that you want to be playing, because again, it's card draw, it's card advantage. You want to be playing these cards when you get them. Don't spend these as resources, and they are all wild resources, so that is very, very cool. They're all wild resources, so you can always use them if need be, if you don't need to change form to trigger something else, or even use them for other things. All right, let's go with the Photon Speed, another card that you have 3 copies of. So Photon Speed, again, 3 copies of this, has the mental resource. All right, so 3 copies of that one. And it says 2-cost event, Photon Speed. It is a thwart superpower. Again, if you have a Def Focus in your deck, that is a 1-cost card, which is really good. Hero action thwart. All right, change to Photon energy form. So let's say you are in Pulsar and you play this card, you will immediately switch and flip. You will be able to remove 1 threat from a scheme. But if you are, so Photon energy and remove 4 threat from a scheme. But if you are already in photon energy form, you ignore crisis icons, which can be huge. Now, me preferably, I if there's no crisis, I prefer be in an other form, because then I remove 5 threat for 2. So 1 for the flip, and then 4 for the action. So that is super, super solid, where you can kind of divide that when you're in a different energy form than photon. Because sometimes just, if there's no crisis, that extra bonus is not really useful. But the fact that you would be in a different form and then come in, remove a threat that can maybe remove one of the crisis icons or remove another side scheme, that is why it's super solid. So Photon Speed, very, 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 very good card. All right, now, next one that we have 3 copies of, pretty simple. We got 3 copies of Gamma Blast. All right, so Gamma Blast is a 3-cost event, attack superpower. Again, Def Focus. Think about that Def Focus to auto-include in Spectrum decks. All right, attack superpower, hero action attack, change to Gamma energy form. All right, so when you change, you deal 1 damage, obviously, which is super cool, and deal 7 damage to an enemy. So 7 damage to an enemy. If you were already in Gamma energy form, this attack gains overkill. So this is very, very good. So attack gains overkill, which is, it's incredibly solid. But you have to be in Gamma form. But sometimes, again, you have a guard, and overkill doesn't do anything because you have a guard, or the villain has a tough. Then you know what? You're better off playing this when you're in a different energy form, and then flip back, remove that. And even if you don't get the overkill, you can still do the 7 damage regardless. But at least you got rid of the tough. So that's some of the things that's kind of interesting to play around, is being in the correct energy form. Again, there's so much versatility. That's why those speeds of light are very, very important, because then you can get yourself in the right energy form, and then boof, and then have the bonus effect as well for doing the event. So again, very, very solid card, Gamma Blast. Lots of damage potential here with this character. All right, now let's look at her defense event, and then she's got 3 of those too. And this is a defense superpower. Now, just so you guys know, little rule, you cannot use Def Focus on the villain's turn. So that's very important, because Def Focus is an action, so you can't reduce that with the Pulsar Shield. All right, so that's just something that's very important to remind yourself. You cannot reduce that one on the villain's turn. All right, so Pulsar Shield says defense superpower, 1-cost event, hero interrupt, defense. When Spectrum defends, so that means you have to defend. If you don't defend, it's not going to work. You can't play this card. You have to defend. Plus, you want to defend. Why? Because, and this is something I also forgot in my first play, change to Pulsar energy form and ready Spectrum. So what happens when you change to Pulsar? First things first is you heal a damage, which is super solid, and then you get to ready. All right? But if you are already in Pulsar energy form, when you get attack, you gain retaliate. So that is very, very fun. All right? So you get to defend and ready, and if you are already in Pulsar form, you actually get to retaliate. So that is something that is, for Black Panther, for Wasp, for Captain America. So retaliate, even Hulk, but he needs to get it. They all have upgrades to give them retaliate, aside from the Black Panther. So there you go. So Pulsar Shield, another great defense card. You mitigate damage, you get to ready as well. So how that works is you would flip, you would get 3 defense, you heal 1, and then you ready. So then whatever the villain attacks you, let's say he attacks you for 5, you go 5 minus 3, and then you'd only take 2 damage. So that is very, very solid with the Pulsar Shield. All right, so that is it for her kit. Again, a lot of super solid cards. All of the events are very, very powerful. You can't go wrong. So definitely, energy duplication, priority number 1, and then the rest of her events as need be, which is why she's so good, because you can use her events to really focus on what you need to be doing right now. So if threat is an issue, you focus on those photon speeds. You know, if damage is an issue, you focus on those gamma blasts. All right, so that is why Spectrum is super fun. Now let's look at the Precon. She came with a bunch of new leadership cards. All right, so let's take a look at the leadership cards that she comes with. First one is Band Together. Now, if you take a look, Band Together says this card generates a wild resource for each ally you control to a max of 3. So this has the potential to be a 3 resource ally that is wild. So if you do have 3 allies and you get, let's say, Sonic Boom from Claw, you can spend Band Together, as long as you have the 3 allies, to generate one resource of each type, which is very, very good. All right, and I did do that during my first play. I had my 3 allies, and I did get rid of that, not to get all my characters exhausted. But as good as this card is, if you have no allies, this card doesn't even generate you a resource. It is nothing. All right, so if you have this in your opening hand with no allies, get rid of it. Just discard it. Do not keep this because there's no point. You have 3 in the deck. Which, like I said, even in constructed decks, I don't think I would put more than 1 or 2 of these cards, depending on what kind of leadership synergies you want to do. But once you got those allies and you're setting up yourself up, oh my God, this is a triple resource, man, available to all leadership characters or all leadership decks. Bonkers. Captain Marvel leadership now is just even, and it's not even a hero resource. It is just a resource card. So you can spend this in Alter Ego as well. Super solid. All right, let's get rid of this guy. All right, let's talk about the new event. Ms. Marvel loves these event cards. All right, so Mass Attack. All right, so Mass Attack says hero action exhaust. Exhaust 3 allies you control that share a trait with your hero. Deal X damage to an enemy where X is the total attack of those allies and your hero. Well, even though it's a great card, Ms. Marvel would not like this because she has 1 stats. But if you think about it, with Spectrum, if you are in Gamma form, you have an attack of 3. And if you have a couple of those good allies that have like, this is where like Wonder Man becomes really good. Because Wonder Man now has an attack of 3, super solid. You think about, cards like the Giant Man. Ooh, Giant Man, he has an attack of 4. Oh man, so I can kind of start using these. So it's very cool to have new cards that make you use allies not as chump blockers, but as they have better and more fun effects. So you're like, oh, I wasn't able to heal them, but I can still use him. So let's read the card. Mass Attack is a 3-cost event, an attack, hero action, attack. Exhaust 3 allies you control that share a trait with your hero and deal X damage to an enemy where X is the total attack of those allies and your hero. So what's just fun is you don't need to exhaust your hero. So it's kind of like a pumped up version of Teamwork. And it's really solid. And it's an attack, but it costs 3 and you do get to spend those allies. Now, the thing is, again, where it's fun is when you have allies that you don't want to, that have, let's say, 2 damage and they only have 1 hit point left, and you're like, oh man, I could really use him to do something, but I don't want to lose my chump blocker for next turn. And boom, there's your solution. Mass Attack. Put 1 of these in your deck and you're golden. So you can do these massive attack of, think about it, if you have 3 allies that have 3 plus your hero has a 2 base stat, that's 11 damage for 3. Super solid. All right, and you get to keep your allies too. So again, they all have to share a trait. So this actually works with Guardians. It actually works because there's a lot of the Guardians, and it actually works with Avengers. So hopefully we get other allies that can make this work. We do have a few champion allies, but aside from Miles Morales and Ironheart, there's not that many good champion allies for Ms. Marvel. So anyway, we'll see how that goes. All right, so there you go, Mass Attack. Now let's talk about a nice support card, which is super broken as well. All right, it is a team card. So in the team card, you can play under any player's control, and there's 1 team card per player. So this is the first team card that we have seen which is super cool. It is a 3-cost support, Mighty Avengers. It has the team keyword, and it says, if each of your characters has the Avenger trait, each ally you control gets +1 thwart, +1 attack. Oh my god, now leadership is even more broken. Now, one thing that you need to remember is if you are an alter ego, your allies will not get the bonus because you are no longer, unless you have an honorary Avenger on yourself, all your characters will not be Avengers. All right, so that's super important. So for most of the time, you want to be in hero form to get the bonus. But again, if you're playing honorary Avenger, which is very good with her because you want to get rid of cards from her deck, you can actually have the bonus while you're an alter ego. Again, but why would you want to go to alter ego with her? Again, no reason. Mighty Avengers, again, super good card. And then if somebody's playing aggro Avengers, that's super solid. You can play that on the aggro. This is super good for like teamwork. And I'm even thinking about like the other allies. Like you can have a Justice Avengers player, and you have an aggro Avengers player, and your leadership Avengers. So you just have tons of Avengers everywhere, and you just play one on each, and then all the allies get +1/+1. This card is going to be worth its weight in gold in multiplayer decks. Like I see people running 3 of these, especially if you're all coordinating to have all your allies being Avengers. It's going to be just broken aggro and all that stuff. All right, so let's talk about some of the new allies that are coming in leadership. So first one is Mr. Kalu. Kalu has no alter ego name. He is just Kalu, and he is a 2-cost ally with 1 thwart, 1 attack, and 2 hit points. He is an Avenger and a Mystic, and he has a response after he enters play. Search the top 5 cards of your deck for an event, and add that event to your hand. Shuffle your deck. Again, with Spectrum, broken. Super good. If you want to play this with other characters that are always looking for like these really good events, I'm talking about you, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. These are all characters that, they're looking for their big events. Even Ms. Marvel, Captain Marvel, Wakanda Forever. Look at all the events that you can go pick. And what's great about it is even if you run a rapid response and he goes away, it's when he enters play, not enter play from your hand. So it's not when you play him from your hand. So he is like one of those great bonus cards that comes into play, and you can, you want to cycle him just because then he has a true cost of 2 because he nets you a card as well. So that is very, very cool. But you have to look at the top 5 cards, and you have to be playing some events. So for her, it works. And again, it depends on the deck you're building, but most decks do have a few events. So Kalu, most of the time, is always going to be a really good ally. All right, next one we have Power Man. Definitely not my favorite. I think he's a little underwhelming. I don't like him too much. So Power Man is a 3-cost ally. It's Victor Alvarez, so it's not even Luke Cage. It's just Power Man. So 1 thwart with 1 consequence, 0 attack with 2 consequence damage. He's an Avenger that enters play with 2 chi counters on him. So the other guy we had with chi counters, well, we remember it is Iron Fist in protection. And then he has an action, discard any number of chi counters from Power Man. He gets +2 attack for each chi counter discarded this way until the end of the phase. So that means if you can ready him, you can attack. So if you use both of his chi counters, he gets to an attack of 4. And then you can, if you ready him, you can attack for 8. So not bad. I'm not a big fan because I think he's a little expensive for what he does. But again, he is a burst of damage on a stick. Like again, I don't think he's going to see too much play in a lot of decks unless you really want to make it super thematic. But again, he's not the most. I don't think he's going to be very, very. I don't think he's going to get played too much. But he's an okay ally. He's just okay. All right, let's talk about White Tiger. All right, White Tiger. Now, this is a broken ally for leadership. 3-cost ally, White Tiger, Aya Ayala. So one thing to notice, if you're playing against Taskmaster, the other White Tiger is not the same person. So this is another White Tiger. They don't have the same alter ego name. So you're safe. You can have that leadership against Taskmaster. All right, so White Tiger is a 2 thwart, 2 attack, 1 consequence damage, 2 hit point Avenger that has a response after you play White Tiger from your hand. So this one you cannot cheat back into play with the rapid response there. But what Regroup is super good is you can come in, abuse player again for free, net yourselves a couple cards. If you're playing Avengers Tower, team building exercise, and whatever other card there, you can reduce the cost of her to 1. And then if you're on stage, and then what does he say? After you play White Tiger from your hand, draw X cards to a maximum of 3, where X is equal to the villain's stage number. And if the villain has no stage number, draw a card. So super nice combo here with, like I said, Avengers Tower, and it's the same as all the other ones. Avengers Tower, team building exercise, and a Queen Carrier or whatever, or a Helicarrier. Play that card for free every turn, and then if you're on stage 1, you net a card. If you get a card, you get a replacement. If you're on stage 2, you net a card. If you're on the final stage of the villain, you actually net 2 cards, which is super, super solid. White Tiger, very, very good ally that is going to be played in pretty much every leadership deck from now on. I don't see anybody not running this. It's kind of like Maria Hill on steroids. All right. But for solo play, maybe it won't be played as much in multiplayer, but I definitely think this for solo play is going to see a little bit more play than what's her face. Man, I don't even want to say her name anymore because she's not an Avenger and White Tiger is, so she works in all the synergies. And finally, Mr. America himself, Grade A, Captain A, 6 cost ally, Captain America, Stevie Rogers. 2 thwart, 2 attack, Avenger, 4 hit points, toughness, but he's amazing because reduce the cost to play Captain America by 1 for each Avenger character you control. So very, very cool. So automatically, if you're running an Avenger hero, he is automatically 5 cost instead of 6. There you go. If you have a few more Avengers, even if you have 3 Avengers on the table, 3 allies that are all Avengers plus her, that's a cost of 2 for this type of ally. Insane. So Captain America really incentivizes you to keep your allies in play and actually put him down really, really early or in the mid game. He comes in and he is just a beast. All right, so that plus the team which is called the Mighty Avengers, he's now a 3/3. Oh my god, he's just a 3/3 with toughness. It's super solid. Super solid. I think Captain America is going to see a lot of play as well, just because that cost reduction is huge for that big of an ally. It's an easy auto include in so many decks. All right, there you go. So Captain America, top-notch ally. And now let's look at some of the great cards. We have Mr. Blade. Blade is a 1-cost ally, Eric Brooks. So it is the real Blade, not some poser. He has 1 thwart, 2 attack, both with a star. He is an Avenger and a Vampiri. He wants to suck your blood. He's a vampire with 3 health and says, force response. After Blade thwarts or attacks, choose to either spend a physical resource from your hand or discard Blade. Now, this is super important, from your hand. So you have to pitch a card to keep him alive. But he has no consequence damage, which is a big bonus. But he does have an upkeep of 1 physical every turn you want to activate him. So, but the fact that he's only 1 cost is very good, especially if you want to just have an easy chump blocker, or if you want to keep him there for strength in numbers and stuff like that, or teamwork. You know, you don't really want to spend the extra physical every time. He's pretty good for that. So he's good as a utility ally and often a chump blocker for you. So there you go, Blade. So that is a lot of allies for a precon, man. That's why this deck is so solid. And then finally, the last card that we're going to present is another upgrade for basics. Oh man, basic is just always the best cards. So one cost upgrade, Ready to Rumble, play under any player's control. That is bonkers. Max once per player. So hero response, after you change form, discard, ready your hero. So this is super good. So one of the characters, let's say you're playing with a Hulk. Okay, oh man, I got a Hulk smash, but I got like 2 health. All right, well, recover. I'm going to play this on you, and then when you flip, you get rid of this card and get to ready. Oh my god, this is like, it's worth its weight in gold for a one cost or two true cost. This makes you recover, stay in the game longer, then get ready, flip, ready up. Man, this card is just so good. And after you change forms, so that's actually really good with Spectrum, because again, when you change to your different energy forms, you can actually ready as well. So that is super solid here. Ready to Rumble, amazeballs. All right, let's talk about her obligation. Let's talk about the nasty cards. All right. Loss of control. It is a obligation that you give to Monica Rambo, and you cannot change energy forms. That is very, very harsh. And alter ego action, you can exhaust Monica Rambo and remove loss of control from the game. So that is not that bad, but if you are exhausted, the fact that you... Oh yeah, sorry. So this one, you can flip, and you have to stay in alter ego. There you go. So yeah, it was almost, you can't just flip and exhaust. No. You can flip to alter ego on your turn, right, when this card comes out. But to be able to get rid of this obligation will stay in play until you actually exhaust. So if you don't get rid of this, you can stay in whatever energy form you are in, but you cannot change. So basically most of your deck is going to become useless. So loss of control, very, very important. Get rid of it. Flip down to alter ego. Get rid of it as soon as possible. And then but it's only once. So it's a very cool obligation. I think they could have let that in the game. Like, you get rid of it, discard it, but they choose to remove it from the game. I think this is such a strong character that it could have been an obligation that stays in the villain's deck, and then it just happens over and over and over. Look at Venom. Venom is loss of control, has the same kind of thing. You're just like, oh, you want to exhaust and take 3 damage, or do you want to put a symbiote in play? There you go. I'm just going to put a symbiote, and then this always shuffles back in. So loss of control, definitely think they could have made it a little bit harder there by keeping that card in the game for a long time. All right, so if you're like me, you're going to be seeing Shadows of the Past a lot. I did it in my pre-con as well when I played my first game. So he comes out, Mr. Radioactivity himself, Radioactive Man. He is Radioactive Man, a minion with 1 scheme, 1 attack, 6 health. Man, and he is an elite, and he is a genius. I don't know, man. I'm a little bit green. I'm just looking at him. I'm a little green with envy here. He is a genius, an elite, and he has a force response after Radioactive Man activates against you. So whether you are in alter ego or in hero form, if he activates, deal 1 damage to each character you control. So if you have built her leadership, this can really, really hurt your board state. All right. So if all your allies are at like 1 hit point, well, that just wipes out all of your gang. So that's super tough. And he also has a boost effect. He deals 1 damage to each character you control. Very annoying. Just like those concussion blasters and like those sky sharks or tiger sharks, or was it space sharks? I forget which one they are. They're from the menagerie. Have that same ability to deal the damage to everything. So very annoying. And finally, we have the side scheme that pops in. 2 per player. Reactor Meltdown. 3 boost cards. 3 boost pips. And it says, when defeated, deal 1 damage to each friendly character in play. Ow, ow, ow. So that can really, really mess up a lot of people's game plan. That 1 damage on everything is super annoying. The good thing is that she, with her speed of light, she can get... is it speed? No, not speed of light. With her photon... What's it called? With her photon speed, she can get past this if she's in photon form. But still, losing that is super, super annoying. And then there's 2 cards here that are called Sap Power. So there's 2 copies of this card in the villain's deck, which is, or in the Nemesis set. It is attached to your identity, force response. After your turn ends, take a damage. It's not the worst punishment. It's just annoying. But you need to get rid of your alter ego, and you can spend 2 lightning to discard this card. Now, this again should have been after you change forms. Take a damage. I think that would have been a way more appropriate. This is just whatever. It's 1 damage every turn. It's not that big a deal. But again, that's just me. I think that could have been a little bit more challenging here. And then finally, the last one is Radioactive Blast. It is a treachery, and it's when revealed in alter ego, place 2 threat on the main scheme, and when revealed in hero form, take 2 damage. Not the worst treachery in there for, again, very, very weak. I find the her Nemesis set definitely not at the power level of this character. So her Nemesis set is pretty... I find it very, very weak compared to what the hero can do. I think that should have been a way more challenging, but that's just my opinion. So all around, guys, this character is super fun to play. Changing those energy forms is going to make you feel like $1,000,000 because every time you do something, something happens. And I think that's what a lot of people like, because if you compare this to Ant-Man, again, you switch to tiny, you draw cards, you remove a threat, you have all these interactions happening. So this is a very, very cool character like that, where every time you do, you play an event that you change forms, something happens. So if you like Ant-Man, you are going to love Spectrum. Again, super solid character. You cannot go wrong with this character. Very, very fun to play. Loved it. Loved the mechanic from the first second I played her. I thought it was just super good. And even after playing her incorrectly and then playing her correctly, it was still super fun to play. So now let's take a look at some deck ideas that you might want to look into for this character. So I'm going to start with aggression. I'm not going to do basics, but I'm going to do an aggression, protection, justice, and leadership build, and how you can tweak this her precon to give you some super fun interactions with this character. So let's go right back in 2 secs. All right, so here's an idea for an aggression build for you. Super, super fun, very easy to build. We got the 5... Oh, man, I'm going to just raise this. I should have raised this a little bit earlier just to give a little bit more focus. All right, so some resources here. We got the three doubles. We got Spectrum. All right, so here's the idea of the deck. As far as we're going to be running a boot camp, so we're going to be using some of our allies for obvious reasons. All right, so the allies we're running a Blade, we're running Wasp, we're running Spider-Girl, Hulk, Valkyrie, and Tigra. Tigra is actually the one that we want to keep into play. Now, if I had the Nebula pack, I would definitely be adding the Energy Spear instead of the Boot Camp, just because it's cheaper. But also, the Boot Camp is always there, and it's very good too. So there we go. So this is really based on going into Gamma form and using the Overkill with the Gamma Blast. So I have two follow-throughs here. Let me just put this so the light doesn't affect too much. Here's the allies. There we go. So just enough allies to block. And then again, these can be definitely easily replaced if you're not too big on follow-through. Don't really need it. It's kind of like a filler card. But energy, I would definitely put an energy spear on this guy and maybe an energy spear on maybe another one. But I think one energy spear is enough. And then we have martial prowess, combat training, just to give ourselves a bigger attack. And then we're running Honorary Avenger, Def Focus, and we're running an Endurance. And for our events, we're running 1 Sneak Attack, and we're running 2 Moments of Triumph just to be able to heal. That's kind of where the follow-throughs are there. And then 3 Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Now, what's good about this is once Tigra's on the field with the boot camp, that means she attacks for 3. If you put the energy spear on her, she attacks for 5 with piercing, which is just crazy. So 5 piercing for Tigra, and then you ready her, and then she basically wipes out every minion. That's why we don't have the Hall of Heroes in there, and that. So again, you can put this into an energy sphere, and you can put maybe cards to remove threat if you want to stay more aggressive. And like, I just don't want to run too many events. But once Tigra's in there, you want to go get those minions to find, like, looking for trouble, and then Tigra kills the minion. You get to remove some threat, and then you just take care of that. Or a Moment of Triumph. Anyway, so that is the deck. It's not too complicated. Basically, really focusing on having some Avengers come in. You can even put an Avengers Tower, remove the follow through for an Avengers Tower, and then you can have like 5 allies or 4 allies. And that in an end game, you have your allies that can just punch. Even if all your allies punch for +1, it just makes it super broken, because these are all the hard-hitting allies from the aggressive pool. So again, there's cards that you can play around with. Again, I think the follow-throughs are the only 2 that I would replace. Everything else is just deck thinning as much as possible, putting those allies down, and then changing forms and doing what needs to be done. So this is a very solid, aggressive build for Spectrum. I've played it. I did it on my French channel, where I built this deck. There was a couple of different cards there from that I played. I just removed a couple. I removed the Battle Fury, and I removed a Dive Bomb because I already have enough damage output. So I was like, I don't really need the extra damage output. Again, if you're more of a stun, you prefer to stun the villains, and you prefer to have that, then you can also replace the surprise attacks and the moments of triumph for the drop kick. So anyway, so easy changes that you can do, but this is a very solid build with a lot of Avengers, and that will get the job done. All right, let's take a look at some protection fun. All right, so this is my version of protection deck, which is very, very solid. I played this against Taskmaster, where I was taking damage every time I was changing energy forms, and I was able to get the W off of that, even with all those restrictions. So first things first, let's take a look. The resources, we got the 3 doubles and the 2 powers of, super simple. As far as events, we're always limiting our events with Spectrum, because the events are just clogging our deck on and against what we want to do. So we're running 3 Ever Vigilance and 3 Perseverance. This is going to make us tough all the time. So this is going to allow us to get perfect defenses all the time, and we'll be able to ready most of the time. All right, so how do we ready? With our Pulsar Shield, and so we actually get to defend. Pulsar Shield makes us ready. We're taking no damage because we're tough. And then we just use our hard to ignore and flappables, electrostatic hammers, and dauntless, just to be always on top of things. All right, so other things as well here that we have Brother Voodoo, who finds us an event, and Nova with the Quinn Carrier is just basically 2 damage every turn. Very, very fun to play that, and especially we have a lot of electric resources so with the energy barriers, so we do have the ways to always feed into Nova's ability. That becomes a lot of damage over time. All right, next thing, we have the 2 energy barriers, just in case there's something that says we all take a damage and we don't want to lose our tough status card. Well, energy barrier does prevent that 1 damage. All right, Def Focus. Obviously, you don't have a choice. Everything you're playing is going to be cheaper with Def Focus. And then Dauntless, Armored Vest, Electrostatic Armor, the triple Hard to Ignore, Unflappable, and Nerves of Steel. I think even the Hard to Ignores, you won't even need them that much, just because these are very, whatever, because with the Ever Vigilance and you being able to flip the Photon Form, you don't really need the Thwart. And this is always obviously for solo play. But even in multiplayer, if you do use these, end up using these, it's very good because you're just the protection. You're the protection guy, and you're taking care of what a Justice player should be doing, which is handling that main scheme. So again, super simple. Of course, if you're playing multiplayer, there's a couple cards you might want to change out. If you want to get rid of those Hard to Ignores, you can always put in the Night Nurse, or you can put in like some Desperate Defenses and stuff like that to be able to ready. The Desperate Defense, so what it is, if you want to get rid of the Hard to Ignores and put in the 3 Desperate Defenses, if you are tough, which is funny because you'll just be able to ready, you'll already be tough, you'll have a defense of like 4 or 5, and then you might never lose your tough status cards. So that is super, super fun with this deck, and that's kind of what you want to be. You want to be always tough, always ready, removing a lot of threat, dealing damage when you flip. So it's very, very versatile deck. Super fun to play. Again, depends on what you want to do. But Hard to Ignores, like I said, the only one I would budge on is the Hard to Ignores, because you will have threat managed like a million times in solo. I did notice that after playing that I was not even half the time I was not even removing any threat. I was using this just to, the Ever Vigilant just to get ready and not having any threat on the main. So because it's so good, because think about it, you remove 5 threat with 1 perfect defense, you're like, wow. So you should be able to go in Alter Ego and all the time. But again, so if you want to just be ready to do other stuff, remove the Hard to Ignores and just play the Desperate Defenses, and then you'll always be ready. All right, so that's the big switch up. Anyway, so that's like a couple of alternatives there for that protection deck. So let's go look at Justice now, what she can do. All right, so now here's some ideas for Justice. All right, so this Justice deck is just bonkers as well. Again, you don't really want to flip to Alter Ego, even though you could. And it's basically a lot of ways to just threat mitigation that she already does amazingly. So this is what we did. We got the 2 Powers of Justice. We got the 3 Energies. And what we're doing with this deck is trying to find ways to deal extra damage to her, while still, keeping threat under control, which is super easy. So we put in the 1 Beat Cop, which is more than enough. We got the Queen Carrier for extra resources. We got the Interrogation Room because we will be defeating minions pretty easily. We got obviously the Skilled Investigator, Spycraft, Counterintelligence, Heroic Intuition, Sense of Justice, Under Surveillance, and the 2 Sonic Rifles and the Def Focus. The Sonic Rifles are there to actually just, even if the advance happens, you don't really worry about it too much. You got the 2 Followeds. That this one we'll talk about in a little bit. This is just, again, ways to do damage that is, once you find a side scheme, just pop the side scheme, deal an extra 4 damage. So it's a way to do that with the other cards that we have. We got the 3 Lay Down the Laws, obviously, to remove a lot of threat. Then Quake, Wiccan, and Agent Coulson. Easy, cheapy allies that are just, free to play almost, and just makes this deck run super smooth. The only thing I would switch after playing it is I would probably remove the Followeds for the Turn the Tides. Just because there's almost never any threat on the main, but I didn't want to do too many events. So I want to see her signature cards more often than not. So just those Lay Down the Laws are just there for like real good bursts, and then after that, everything else kind of just handles itself. Damage. That's all you're looking for is the damage card. So you have everything in your yellow cards that are going to deal with threat, and then you have her signature cards that are just there for damage, and then you can add some extra damage with the Turn the Tides and just get rid of these Followeds. and you still have only like 5 events in your deck, and you're still super solid. All right, so if you guys like that, then that's the Justice deck for you. Again, super simple, make it easy, and not too complicated. This hero Spectrum does run by herself. She is so good. All right, so let's go look at leadership as our final idea for a build. All right, finally for an upgraded version of her leadership deck. So again, you will never be lacking resources. You will be just drawing cards like a monkey. It's just insane. So what you're looking for is you got the 2 band togethers, 1 power of leadership, the 3 double resources, which is just infinite resources. Triskelion, Avengers Tower, and Quinn Carrier, again, for cost reduction, resources. You got a Mighty Avengers, and then you have a Death Focus. And then for allies, you just got everything that costs 2. You got White Tiger that makes you draw cards, and Captain America, that's going to just be like the cheapest ally because he might even be free. Or you might just cost you 1. And then you have cards like Mass Attack, Avengers Assemble, and 3 Strength in Numbers. This deck is just broken. There's nothing you can do. This is just super solid. Again, you're putting on 2 or 3 allies on your first turn, and then as long as you can put those allies down quick, you'll be able to use those band togethers. You'll be able to use Captain America cheap, Strength in Numbers. Your setup turn is going to be like maybe 3 turns, and you should be all set up with the 10 allies in your deck. You'll be set up in like no time, and then Avengers Assemble and Mass Attack is just going to be super solid for the kill, for the win. So there's some little deck techs for you guys if you want to play them and you want to try them out. Like I said, I've tried them out. They're tried, tested, and true to make you beat the game. So guys, I hope you enjoyed Spectrum in all their aspects. I hope you enjoyed the breakdown. So guys, keep on playing Marvel Champions, and we'll see you soon for Adam Warlock. And that's going to be really interesting to build. All right, so keep on playing Marvel Champions. Beat the game with Spectrum. Bye-bye.